The Scottish Amateur Championship is a tournament that has been played on some of the very best courses in Scotland, but perhaps none finer than this year's venue, Royal Dornoch, where a warm welcome awaits any golfer who makes the trip up north.
We're very proud of our course. I think it's one of the best in the world. Our ethos is golf, and it's sharing our great course with as many people as possible. It's great that visitors come and play. That helps us run the course the way we do, but it's also great to get the best golfers in the world to come and play. It's great to say that somebody like Tom Watson has played here and described it as the most fun he's ever had playing golf. Just after him, Ben Crenshaw was here. We've had the likes of Ernie Els, Nick Faldo, Greg Norman. We have a huge junior programme, so we start from the very bottom end all the way through our members to our visitors from all over the world. So we're sharing the great asset we have with as many people as we can. So having our national championship here is just another step in that direction.
And there can't be too many club managers in the country who have as close a connection with this tournament as Neil.
Yes, I still managed to keep a scratch handicap, so I was out playing this on Tuesday morning against a young lad called Grant Forrest, who is Scottish Boys Champion in 2010, and we had a super game. And like all the young boys these days, hits the ball way past anything I ever dreamed of I could do. So it's great to be up close and watch them. We had a good time out in the course.
Neil may have had a good time out on the course, but his home advantage wasn't enough to see off the youngster, Grant Forrest, winning 3-2. And here we see him beating his third round opponent, Lyle McAlpine. But perhaps the most eye-catching tie of the third round featured this man, Jack McDonald. What a season he'd been having. He had the chance to play in the Scottish Open at Castle Stewart earlier in the season and made the cut, played the final round alongside Ernie Els. And what a great year the young man who's now based at Stirling University is having. But he was up against another talented youngster, Greg Marchbank. He topped the Boys Order of Merit last year, and although he'd had a slow start to the season, he was on top form against Jack, and he provided SGU TV with its first ever hole-in-one. A magnificent shot here on the 13th, and Greg beat Jack on the 18th, but let's hear about that hole-in-one.
The 6 irons for 176 yards, and I just started at about 5 yards left of the pin, let it fade back in. Got a bit lucky and went in.
Greg being a bit humble there about the hole-in-one, but it takes more than luck to beat a man who's in good form.
He's had a good year with the Scottish Open and everything. He's a great player, so pretty happy to beat him.
And how does he like the course?
It's phenomenal. I think it's the best course in Scotland I've played anyway.
Greg had a good run and certainly was enjoying the course and the greens, holding a lovely putt here out to the 8th. But as it was, Greg's run finished in the 5th round, where he lost out to Lewis Much. And what about some of the other bigger names playing this week? Well, here's last year's Order of Merit winner, James White, holing here on the 6th for a lovely birdie 2. And when the cameras were there, James was playing well. You would have thought he was looking good for a victory in his 4th round match against Gordon Stevenson. Again here at the 10th. Beautiful tee shot, and he sank that also for a birdie 2, but it seems it was only for the cameras. The good golf from James, and he lost 3-2. Another man who's had some impressive runs over the years in this tournament, Michael Smith from Troon. Well, he battled the weather, came through his 3rd round tie here, but lost also in the 4th round to Fraser Moore. Matthew Clark had been having a magnificent season so far. Some great results, enough to earn him a call-up into the Scotland team. But here, teeing off at the 13, showing just how dangerous this course is. The ball barely making it to the edge of the green, but still feeling the gravitational pull of the bunker. Matt been playing well, as I said, though, this year. And, well, if you're going to play a course like this, you're going to have to be able to play bunker shots like that. And that was Matthew well on his way to a 4-2 victory over Grant Minnis. But he too would lose out in the 4th round, losing to Donald McAndrew. Scott Crichton, a man who's been in and about the Scotland squad over the last couple of years, This was his 4th round tie against Craig Dearness. And that putt was to save a half, and that was the story for Scott. Struggling a little bit this week up at Dornoch, when he was really looking to stake a claim to try and get into that Scotland team. Not happy at all. And his opponent, Craig Dearness, well, he just played very steadily and ground out a victory, winning on the 18th. His reward would be to meet the winner of this tie. Here we have Charlie McNeil holding a great putt on the 9th, but he was up against Graham Robertson, one of the best amateur players in the country at the moment, another member of the Stirling University team, who really had to grind out the victory in his 4th round tie.
It was a struggle. I've been playing well all week, to be honest with you. Today was a bit of a shock to the system. I found myself, I think, 2 down with 5 to play, and both of us, we weren't playing our best golf, so I got it back on 14, made a good par. I found myself 1 up playing the last, and I knew the last is a tough hole, so I thought par would be good enough, and it was.
Graham's golf has really improved over the last couple of years, and how much of that is to do with his coach Dean Robertson at Stirling University.
Dean's helped me a lot. I think there's no secret about that. I think he's helped a lot of guys at the university as well. You see Jack McDonald doing well over the past 2 or 3 months, so I mean, yeah, no question about it. He's helped all of us. His amateur record is pretty special. I think all of us would be lucky to emulate that.
Graham exited the tournament at the quarter-final stage thanks to this man, seasoned campaigner from just down the road, Brian Fotheringham. He made it through to the semi-finals where he faced this young man, Richard Docherty. The rain not putting him off here whatsoever, as he played a nice approach at the par 4 8th in his 5th round tie against a man who's been a fairly consistent performer over the last couple of years, Alexander Culverwell. This match went to extra time. Here we are on the 19th hole, and Alexander needing this to keep the match alive. It was a brave attempt, but in the end he lost out to Richard, who beat Brian Fotheringham in the semi-final, making it through to the final, where he met Grant Forrest, conqueror of the club manager, and a man who's only played a few tournaments over in Scotland since coming home from university, but that didn't stop him getting off to a very bright start. He won the first 4 holes, so by the time we join the match here on the 5th, Richard Docherty is very much on the back foot. Grant, having missed the green with his approach, well, that didn't faze him. He played a lovely chip up near the hole, but Richard still had a birdie putt to start the fight back. 4 down after 4. He would have been looking for that to go in. As it was a half, but at least he stopped the run of losing every hole so far, and a lot to think about already for the 22-year-old from Bearsden. But Grant still had to see this in for the half, although no problem. Confidence was high with the teenager, now based at the University of San Diego, especially with the short game. As we moved on to the 8th, this was Richard's approach. It can be a tricky par 4, but Richard looking to make light work of it, and his hopes must have been high. As you can see, Grant Forrest's ball short of the green after his approach, although by this point Grant was now 5 up. Richard finding it difficult to live with Grant's short game, as illustrated here with this chip, very nearly holed from the edge of the green. And Grant happy with that, although it still gave Richard the chance to get one back and reduce the deficit to 4. This for a birdie 3 after a great approach, but it just slipped by, and those were the putts that really needed to start going in. Well, eventually the sun came out after a very overcast start to the day, and as we catch up with the game now at the 11th, with Grant still 5 up, but again, well, his long iron's a little bit wayward, finding the rough short of the green, and not too happy with his chip on, although most of us would be pretty pleased with that. Richard again with a putt to win the hole, just coming up short, but it would be hopeful that, well, par 4 might be good enough this time around, with Grant having rolled his chip just a little bit past the hole from where he was. So Grant with this for the half to keep 5 up, and it was right in the centre of the hole. And once again, Grant's short game, getting him out of trouble and keeping him well ahead. Now over to the 13th, where we saw Greg Marchbank get the hole-in-one earlier in the week. And Richard, well, he'd steadied the ship somewhat after finding himself 4 down after 4 holes. By the time we reached this 13th, he was still only 4 down and playing a little bit more solidly. But when you're 4 down, you have to start winning holes back, but you can only do that if your opponent lets you. And Grant with a magnificent tee shot, well inside Richard, although they would both take 2 putts to get down and half the hole in par 3s. Richard lost the next, but he had a birdie chance here on the 15th to get it back to 4, determined not to let Grant run away with it. Richard was staging a mini comeback. He won the 16th as well to get it back to 3, half the 17th, but by the time we reached the 18th, Richard needed this putt to drop for a half. It just caught the edge of the hole there, and as it was, the players went in after 18 holes at half time with Grant Forrest 4 up. The weather stayed nice and sunny for spectators and golfers alike to enjoy the course at its best. And by the time they reached the 3rd, Grant needed this putt to stay 4 up. All the afternoon holes being halved so far, and the match now perhaps getting a little tighter, but Richard still having to claw into that lead. And when they both missed the green at the next, the 4th, it was Grant who got up and down to take the hole and move to 5 up. The par 3 6th, Whinny Bray, possibly Dornoch's most famous hole. Well, both players missed the green and both found the bunkers. This time it was Richard with a magnificent recovery, although Grant knocked his to 3 or 4 feet. And as they both saw their putts in and Grant had won the 5th, he was now 6 up. And that's how the match stood. When they reached the 8th, Grant here with a lovely approach shot, this time finding the green. Remember, he was short this morning when he nearly chipped in. Richard had also found the green and rolled his putt just a few feet short, which meant that Grant had this lengthy birdie putt to win the hole and move to 7 up. And things really now beginning to look ominous for Richard. And Kenny Smith there with the camera out looking for the winning putt. Well, it wasn't going to come here. This was the 9th. Richard, well, he had a chance to take the hole with this putt for a par 4. But time and the holes beginning to run out for Richard. And by the time he moved down to the 11th, Grant was 8 up and Richard needed that putt to keep the match alive. It just slipped past, and that meant that Grant Forrest was the Scottish amateur champion with a winning margin of 9-7 over Richard Doherty in the final. Emotional scenes at the end, and there's no doubting Grant's class with his short game in what was sometimes a scrappy final.
It wasn't the prettiest golf of the week by a long way, but just managed to get the job done. Short game held up. Today it really did the job, so yeah.
Grant had never played here before this week, so what did he make of the course?
Any course that you have a victory on, you're going to love, and heard great things before coming up here about Royal Dornoch, and it lived up to the expectations. It's a great test of golf, very fair, and just rewards good golf.
A great effort from Grant after having played not too much competitive golf this summer under difficult circumstances.
Well, I played the 3 big tournaments when I came back, but then I lost my dad obviously earlier in the summer, so we kind of knew that was coming. But so I took a bit of time off, but still kept the practicing going. Just didn't compete as much, and then yeah, just kind of didn't really put too much pressure on myself coming into the week, and worked a treat.